Super important for seniors. It's something that they need to do multiple times a day to simply get up and out of a chair, which, as we know, as we age, we tend to sit a lot more than we do currently. So making sure we have that leg strength to do that is important to not only help prevent falls while we're getting out of the chair, but potentially to avoid some embarrassment. If you constantly struggle to get out of your chair at dinner with your friends when you're older, this might lead to a little bit of embarrassment going out. So just staying consistent with this can help you throughout. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for clicking. Let's get started.
The first progression is simply being able to stand. If your client does not have the prerequisite strength to just stand, then there is no way they're going to be able to squat on their own. If they do not have the prerequisite strength to be able to stand, you may need to use a gait belt to help stand them up in place. Try to work on getting their endurance longer over time for standing before attempting a sit to stand. Once they are able to stand for a decent period of time, work on slowly lowering themselves down for an eccentric rep. The next sit to stand progression is simply using a boost to make the chair higher. This will decrease the range of motion needed, thus decreasing the need for leg strength and ankle, knee, and hip flexibility. This is a good starting point for somebody who doesn't have much strength in their leg but can still somewhat squat on their own. When working with your client, be sure to cue good technique by shifting your weight forward into your feet before driving up. This will help mitigate any potential balance issues that your client may have. Using the arms is okay, but make sure to tell them to keep driving with their legs. My rule of thumb is if they're using their arms and they feel it a lot in their arms, that's okay as long as they are still driving through their legs and feeling their muscles in their legs working. Work on getting multiple sets at this first level of sit to stands before progressing to the next level. After you have progressed your individual through that high sit to stand, you can now take out one of the pads or towels or whatever booster you are using to make the height a little bit lower. This will increase the range of motion needed, thus increasing the prerequisite strength that your legs need, as well as the mobility in your knees, ankles, and hips.
The last of the progressions when it comes to using pads is simply using no pads at all. This will be the most similar to what they will be doing in normal life, as eating at restaurant tables or just doing anything sitting will obviously have no foam pads to use. This is quite a jump to go to from doing 2 pads all the way to no pads, as there's nearly a 3 to 4 inch decline from the top. So if your client or individual you work with has gone all the way down from 2 pads to no pads at all, this is extremely good, and just encourage them that their hard work is paying off.
Although your client may not notice an immediate change in how they feel, this jump should be noted through daily documentation of how they're doing. This way, progression can be shown not only to you, but your client. This increases motivation long term, but also short term.
After you've progressed all the way from doing no pads with hands, there's 2 different routes you can take. The first one being trying to use no hands at all, or potentially using one hand. For individuals who are stronger at this exercise, they may be able to use no hands when they're first doing it. For individuals who are still not quite that strong, adding an additional hand may give that extra leverage that they need to get up and out of the chair. It's important to note to still use good mechanics and try not to use too much momentum when getting up. Still remind them to shift that weight into their feet and stand up nice and tall before they're doing something. As you see, I just kind of showed myself using no hands and not able to get it, but adding that extra hand helped quite significantly. And of course, when you've done this with 2 blue pads, you can move back down to 1 blue pad as we did before, initially with the 2 hands. Same progression, just kind of restarting back from 2 pads and building that technique with no hands or 1 hand. If your client is able to complete a full sit to stand without holding on to anything with just the chair, they may be able to move on to a free squat just holding on to a bar. This is more difficult because there is an increased range of motion as well as more need for ankle and hip mobility. As you notice, I'm going at different heights to potentially address that different clients may be at differing mobility levels. Work with your clients to find a mobility level that fits them and work down as you can. The last progression is doing a complete free squat without holding on to anything or using anything beneath you. This is the holy grail for a senior, so if they're able to do this from your hard work, give yourself and them a pat on the back. Next, we're going to go through a few squatting errors you may see with seniors. The first one that's fairly common that I've identified is using your arms too much when you lift. When I'm starting with a lot of seniors, we use this ballet bar to kind of help them assist them along. The issue with this is that some of them use their arms too much. They lean back and don't let their legs do the work. So as you see here, my arms are completely straight, which kind of allows me to cheat the rep by just leaning back and kind of shimmying up. One way you can fix this is by moving their chair closer to have their arms slightly bent. This does 2 things. It forces them to not lean back as much, but also helps them practice shifting that weight forward into their feet before driving up. Ultimately, that balance of shifting the weight into our feet helps us drive more with the legs to help us get where we're going. The next error is similar to the last one, and that is having our feet too far away when we stand up. Sometimes seniors, when they're trying to stand out of the chair, their feet are too far away. You'll need to cue them to keep their feet a little bit closer, because if they do not, all that weight that they're putting is just going straight back, as you just noticed there. So when they stand up, if their weight's not forward, they'll of course go straight backwards, which is sometimes why we see falls when individuals are trying to get out of the chair. So really cue them to shift forward in addition to having those feet closer to them. This will help their balance aspect in the squat, as well as driving more with their legs and not their arms. The next error is another one that is caused by a lack of ability to balance properly. When standing out of a chair, if individuals are not shifting their weight forward into their feet before standing up, they're going to be scared that they're going to fall backwards. As you notice, what I'm doing, I'm kind of keeping my weight backwards naturally when I get out of the chair because I'm afraid of pitching forward. In doing this, I kind of shift that chair backwards because I'm adjusting my center of gravity at the same time. This is an error because it can obviously move the chair around and shows that you aren't shifting your weight properly. So if an individual is doing this, really cue them to lean forward and drive with those legs. That's extremely important. And you might need to even be in front of them and kind of pull them a little bit to assist them in that. Once they get the feel for it, it's something that they naturally can feel and kind of work on their own. The last error I recorded for you is called the flop. This is when individuals, either on purpose or inadvertently, flop onto where they're sitting, thus not controlling the movement and putting less work on their legs. The issue with this is not only that there's less work being done for the leg muscles, so you're not able to progress as well, but individuals who have spinal cord injuries or just general disc herniations and degenerations over time, this may cause more of a jarring and compression effect that could exacerbate those issues. If you're working with a client, simply cue them to control the movement or slow down. This usually helps most individuals realize that they're going too fast. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that video. Hopefully it gave you kind of a scope of what I do to work with some of the seniors and how I look at programming squatting for them. Obviously it's a lot different than how we would program for somebody who's in the general population, but nonetheless it's still all about progressions and it's all about overloading those different progressions over time. When you're working with any senior, it is your job to try to find out what they can do and what they can't do and work from that. So if somebody can only do sit to stand with only a couple reps at a certain difficulty, perhaps making it a little bit easier would be better for the client. Always practice good judgment if something's causing them pain, if there's any issues with any orthopedic surgeries over time, so hip injuries, knee replacements, these are something that should be considered. Once again, thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next video.